listening to Frank Skinner's podcast from Absolute Radio.
Good morning. This is the Frank Skinner Show on Absolute Radio. But I'm not Frank. I'm Emily Dean. I'm sitting in Frank's seat this morning. I have to say, it's a little bit snug on my curves. I don't think the studio's ready for my jelly. I'm going to say it. Frank can't be with us this morning. He's got a little bit of a... What would you describe it as, Daly? Daly, I called you? Daisy? Bit of a chest infection.
Daley Thompson is producing the show today.
Yeah, but we have to say he is still doing his show tonight.
Yes.
Tickets still available.
Not Thompson. Frank, it's Daley Thompson's not doing a show.
No.
He'd turn up in a tracksuit bottoms if he was. But yeah, we hope you feel better. He's giving his voice a little rest, which I think is a sensible thing. A bit like Liza Minnelli when she was on tour. It's that sort of thing.
He's very like Liza Minnelli.
He is.
He was brilliant in Cabaret.
So I'm holding the fort. You can text the show on 81215 or you can follow the show on Twitter. It's at Frank on the Radio. I'm joined, as ever, by Le Coq Sportif.
Thank you.
How are you finding that name? How's it working for you?
I like it, yeah. Yeah, it's good.
I don't believe you.
I do, I like it.
OK. We also have Steve Hall in the house.
Good morning.
Hi, Steve.
Hello.
You've been away for a while, haven't you?
It's been a while.
Did a jail sentence, didn't he? No, you haven't been away for a while.
I went to Australia, which could be considered a jail sentence for some people.
Yeah.
Once upon a time.
Yeah.
I'm glad you haven't gone... You know when people go to Australia and they come back with an accent? I can't bear that. And they go, oh, how you doing? Yeah. Oh, I just picked up an accent while I was there. No, you
Yeah.
didn't. You were there for like a week.
Yeah. I get certain words that when we went for 3 weeks, and the word, it's the way Australians say around.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like they're treading on a cat when they say around.
And you've picked that up?
Yeah.
Have you? Right.
Now, I've got a lot to discuss this morning. It's my train set, so I'll do what I want.
Oh, good.
So we'll mainly be talking about me.
Great, we've got 3 hours.
Yeah, not enough,
We
I
can
say.
stretch it a bit. Yeah.
However, I've got a few bits of housekeeping we need to get out of the way. Firstly, I don't have a cup of tea and I'm not happy about it. I'm just putting that out there.
Diva moment. Hashtag.
Secondly, we need to talk about Simone Cowell, because there's been some news, hasn't there, this morning?
I think we should offer our heartfelt congratulations. Yeah.
A babe is born in Bethlehem.
Yeah. And of course, you'd call it Eric.
Why has he called it Eric?
Because it's his dad's name, I
Oh,
think.
well, that's rather nice, and I feel
Isn't
terribly
it?
guilty. No, I don't at all. It's a terrible name.
I just really
Why would
hope
you
his
call
other the mother's father might have been called Little Ern.
Can I tell you what I liked? I was reading about this in The Sun, which is where I get all my news. And one of my favourite details about the Simon Cowell birth, Simon got a British Airways flight because his private jet was stranded by the weather. It is only the second time he has flown commercial in a decade. I have so much respect for that man.
Yet more common ground for you and he.
I now really want to know what the other time he flew commercial is. What's his bigger reason?
What occurred?
I think that was on his gap year,
He
probably.
found out that Shed 7 were doing a reunion gig and he had to get back.
I like, apparently, because he's admitted that, you know, some aspects of his lifestyle aren't very conducive to having a child. Smoking, drinking, having a harem. However, he said he's planning to splash out, instead of giving up smoking, which would be the most sensible, easy way around this, he's instead spending £200,000 on a ventilation system in his den.
Wow.
That gets rid of all the smoke. He's got a den.
He's got a den. That's immediately set up for a kid, isn't it? Kids love dens.
He's like a little fox in that respect. Anyway, more about Simon in a minute.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
You're listening to the Frank Skinner Show on Absolute Radio. I'm Emily Dean. I'm here with Steve Hall and Alan the Cockerel Cochrane.
Oh, hello.
I thought I'd give a little accent that time.
Yes, I've gone very French this morning.
Now, we've talked a bit about Simon Cowell.
Bonjour. I was thinking about his bad smoking habits.
Yeah.
And pretty soon he's not going to be allowed to do that in the car with a child in it, is he? But luckily he has a fleet of cars, so he can
Yes, this is true.
just have one for the children. He'll have like somebody behind him in an S-Max with children in it, and then he can puff away in a Bentley.
Well, maybe
seeing
he'll
as-
bring his own kind of ventilation system that he can smoke through, so he'll look like kind of Darth Vader dad.
You're comparing Simon Cowell to Darth Vader
He
in
can
some
have it
way.
built into his clothes.
Darth Vader's not that bad.
Seeing as he arranged for his 2 dogs to fly out on a private jet, he had a jet for the dogs.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think it'll present a problem. But enough about other people. What about
when I
me?
announced that we got the dog's teeth cleaned, and it was 200 and odd quid, people
Yeah.
were outraged. But I haven't flown the dog about in a private jet, to my knowledge. I mean, I don't look at the bills. So.
Just FYI, they cost quite a bit. I think you
Right.
might get a shock.
I'll have to have a look at the statement.
Have you ever been on a private jet?
No.
Okay, text in
Who
if
do you
you've
think
been on
you're
a private
talking
jet. Text us in on 81215 with your private jet experiences.
Have you been on a private jet, Steve?
I've never. I've watched Con Air. I don't know
Right,
if that's the- I don't know if
that
that's
counts.
the same.
That
Can I
counts,
just
yeah.
say, there's
we
some
go.
breaking news here. Sandy Waugh is pointing to herself and saying, I have.
Wow.
Sandy, we'll talk later. We'll compare notes.
It's nice that you found common ground on Absolute Radio.
Yes. A lot of common ground in this studio.
That would be a good text in, though. Text in if you've been on a private jet and tell us why.
Yeah, tell us what it was like and tell us who it was with. I won't tell you that second bit, but I
So
will.
that's a texting that really,
Oh, really?
is for the people, isn't it?
Exactly. It's just
Well-
Frank texting.
As we're on the subject of the people and we're keeping it real, I'm going to tell you about a premiere I went to this week.
Wow.
I say premiere. It was 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning. That's a
Right.
bit of a rubbish time, isn't it? It was the celeb turnout. Let's just say it was a little bit Wincy Willis and the White Power Ranger.
So it was still
That
an
was the
official.
sort of-
It was still an official premiere, though. It wasn't just the first screening.
Are you questioning my credentials?
I would
Somewhat.
Uh,
never dream of doing such a thing.
It was a screening / premiere, but it was a bit White Power Ranger. So I went to the Lego movie because my niece Bertie is it was her first film and I wanted her to have her first kind of cinematic experience. And I thought, may as well do it at a premiere.
Was it a red carpet event? Her first trip to
Oh,
the
yeah.
cinema was a red carpet.
It was a red carpet.
Wow.
And when I got in the cab, I taught her premiere as well. So she was saying, we're going premiere. And the cab driver gave me judgmental looks. Like I was sort of Katie Pry's mother. But we went out, we got to the red carpet, and there were these poor out-of-work actors in those big foam suits dressed
Yeah.
as the Lego characters.
I've been that guy.
Have you been there?
I've been that guy.
I can't bear it. The pathos is too much. There was one character called, I think he's called Emmett, and the other is called Wildstyle. But these details were lost on Bertie, and she was just going, man, lady. It's awful, isn't it, after you've got dressed up. So, actually, when I first went to pick her up, I had a terrible moment, because she was a bit funny with me, she was a bit awkward, and her eyes narrowed a bit, and she said, I don't want to go with you, which was a bit embarrassing in front of my brother-in-law. Mm-hmm. And I think being rejected by a child is worse than being rejected by a man, I would say. I do.
Yeah.
It reminded me, I remember once when I was at an awards ceremony and the boy band 5 were there, and they all checked me out. This was a while ago, but they all checked me out, and then one of them went, actually, no.
No.
Actually, no. That's my Richard Curtis film, Actually, no.
That's awful.
Yeah.
I know.
Can you remember which one of 5 it was?
No, but I think we need to find out, don't
Yeah.
we?
Yeah.
I just hope it wasn't Abs, because
Hang
I've
on.
always had a soft spot for him.
Google images.
Okay, can you Google him, please? If he hasn't got hair anymore, I don't want to know.
The Frank Skinner Show. Listen live every Saturday morning from 8 on Absolute Radio.
Just to give you a little insight into what goes on in mid-link here on Absolute Radio, Alan has taken his shoes off. He's got socks on. He's put his belt on driver setting, is that right?
The belt has been loosened a notch, yeah. Well,
And he
I've had
leaned back in his chair
had
in
a
a very
breakfast.
loose way and said, who's going to get the Fulham job then? That is the kind of conversation we have.
Well, I thought that was all right.
Who
But
is going to get the Fulham job,
turns out it's
Steve?
been allocated.
I don't know if it's Magat or Magarth.
Okay,
He's
that's
a
enough on that
German
subject.
We're
Let's go back
talking
to the
about the
premiere.
Lego film. I want to know about it, but not with any spoilers, because I'm going to go and see it with Cockerell Jr., little
Oh,
Lord
are
Fauntleroy.
you?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's worked up enough good marks on the blackboards that his treat is to go and see the Lego film.
I hope he enjoys it.
So do tell us, but no spoilers.
Well, I think Bertie might have been... we had 3D glasses, and a
Oh,
3-year-old
right, yeah,
looks
yeah.
very old in dark glasses. She
That-
looked like a mini Pops Roy Orbison.
They're irritating even for the adult viewers, so I
Yeah.
imagine a 3-year-old being quite frustrated and annoyed at having something on her face.
Hers... well, she's going to have to get used to it with makeup. But her glasses fell off, and I want my glasses! So I had to go and retrieve them. I knocked over the popcorn of the little girl next to me.
Oh, no way. That would have looked malicious as well.
She started
Like, just a
whining.
bully.
Yeah. She was sat 7 rows away. It was just an opportunity.
Chuck your weight around, yeah?
She started whining
Show her
slightly.
his boss,
I
yeah.
said, I've got money, it's fine.
Your answer to everybody whining.
Every man I've ever been out with. So I think there was one point when there was again, no spoiler alerts, but one of the female character says, you're the special one, you've been chosen. And there's a big silence, and then Bertie says, I want to go home.
Oh.
Oh. I was like, me and Shaquille O'Neal, so tell them.
She's not interested in the romantic stories.
No. I want to go home.
What is this, Mills and Boone?
Yeah, she didn't like that. She didn't like the romance.
I do like the idea of the Lego film, though. Do you think there was a point when they were thinking of, like, storyboarding it, and one of them said, oh, we could put this scene in, and the other went, that won't fit. And they went, well, it will if we put 3 of those little sort of circles on the top. It'll be all right.
I like to think the Lego film is essentially the junior version of the Transformers film.
Is it?
It's not, but that's how I'm picturing it.
I believe everything. Is there a new Transformers film coming out as well? I still haven't seen Kes. Everybody expects me to have seen films, but I haven't.
And Alan, that's why Alan gets very upset about spoiler alerts.
Yeah,
you can't reveal the plot of it's a film from 1963. It was spoiler alert.
The thing is, Kes is probably, a feel-good film for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I imagine. I don't know.
But I recommend it if you have young ones.
Yeah,
because it's from the same people who did 21 Jump Street, which is an extremely good comedy.
Oh yeah, I've seen that recently.
It's great.
That is fun.
I have faith in them.
Oh, good.
Well, that's enough to recommend it. If you're a child, I thoroughly recommend it. If you're an adult, go and see a film suitable for you.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
This is the Frank Skinner Show on Absolute Radio. I'm Emily Dean. Deal with it. We've been talking about the Lego movie, and I was saying it was my niece Bertie's first ever cinema experience, which was very exciting. And it made me think of my own first cinema experience, which was Snow White. I wet myself.
No way.
I did. I wet myself.
Oh, you wet yourself? I thought you said you went yourself.
Given my parents, that's not completely out of the realms of possibility.
Here's why I went, no way, thinking you were going to go, yeah, actually, here's what happened.
Let's say I messed myself. Let's be polite about it.
Right.
It was awful.
No, that sounds worse. If you say you messed yourself, it sounds like you're making a differentiation from wetting yourself.
And then I saw Gone with the Wind when I was about 5. My dad took me and started lecturing me about the American Civil War.
Wow.
And Gone with the Wind is about 4 hours long as well. It's
Yes, he shouted at me because I fell asleep with it. You have to concentrate in life.
Wow.
How about you two? Do you remember your first movie?
I'm not certain if it was my first movie, but I've been thinking about this, and I think it's Condor Man with Michael Crawford.
So relieved you said that. That sounded like it was going to go to a very dark place.
Well, it is, because we came back from watching Condor Man, and...
Who's in that? Michael Crawford?
Yeah. It's basically
it's
basically a Frank Spencer movie, but with him as a superhero. Condor Man. You don't know Condor Man? You're both looking at me really puzzled.
Steve Hall.
I've never heard of it.
You've never
slightly
heard of Condor
worried that
Man?
this was some weird dark play that was just...
I'm worried now that I dreamt this whole episode. But worse than that was it's quite a light movie, and I came back and found my goldfish, Wum, which is...
I beg your pardon?
That was my goldfish's name, Wum, W-U-M, Wum.
Does everything in Yorkshire have to be a 3-letter name?
This
like
was
Kes?
when I was in Scotland at the time, but apparently it was called Wum because I couldn't pronounce William, so they just called it Wum. I think they tried to call the goldfish William. I'm not sure of the story. I'll ask my mum and tell you next week, yeah. We came back and Wum was dead. It's a goldfish.
No.
For me, the Michael Crawford film Condor Man and a dead goldfish are always connected.
Who would have thought talking about first movies would take us down such a dark, frightening corridor?
It's not
the
a
dead
dark...
goldfish cul-de-sac.
Condor Man is not a dark film. We'll get people texting saying...
Condor Man, I suspect, is not even a film, because I've never heard of it. Michael Crawford.
All right, Barry Norman.
When you first said it, I heard condiment. So I just thought the first film you went to see was some salt and pepper.
I heard something slightly more alarming. Well, can you... this is extraordinary. Was his character, did he do the Frank Spencer voice?
No, I don't think
so.
Okay. Well, he probably did an approximation of it.
Oh, I've come to save the world.
I think there's a pratfall. I think there's pratfalls involved.
The world's in a little bit of trouble.
I think he had a jetpack.
Well, they've always got a jetpack. That's no boast.
Brilliant.
Does he save the day by holding onto the back of a double-decker on roller skates at some point?
I imagine so, yeah. But I can't really remember because my memory is tarnished by the death of my goldfish straight after it.
Are you sure you weren't watching an episode of Some Mothers Do Have 'Em and then just looked outside and saw a bird on a tree?
Text in 81215. Does the film Condor Man exist?
Yeah, do text in. I think we know the answer to that.
This is
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
We've had a staggering response to the Condor Man issue.
Have we?
It turns out the text in the week that the people have chosen, if anything, is does the film Condor Man really exist, or have I made
Can
it
you
up?
please not mispronounce it, because it's making me very
Yeah,
tense.
it's quite important that I say it right, isn't
We
it?
should explain, if someone's just tuned in and has had a line, that
Yes.
you'd said this, we were talking about first movies we'd seen, and Condor Man was apparently your first movie, Alan Cochrane.
I came back and the goldfish Wum was dead. Wum, W-U-M. And so, yeah, well, that's my memory, is Condor Man. And I said it was Michael Crawford as a sort of version of Frank Spencer. And then you both doubted it, and I
We
started
did,
to doubt
Steve, didn't
myself.
we?
We did.
And then the next text was, "Hi gang, Condor Man was Gene Wilder," with an exclamation mark, and I immediately panicked and worried myself.
Yeah.
But since then we've had lots of people saying it was Michael Crawford, it's definitely a film. Michael Crawford's sidekick in the film is also the dad from Teen Wolf. I remember him having a bright yellow Condor Man car. A lot of people talking about the car. My favourite text, Condor Man.
How many have we had of these texts?
About 400,000. About 400,000. Condor Man, it was a film, and the car toured the country. It came to Dewsbury, where I was in the local paper pictured alongside it. And then he adds, "Lee from Dewsbury."
I love the sound of Lee.
I love the sound of Dewsbury.
Well, that's very exciting.
Many times.
I'm so sorry that we doubted you, Cockrell.
There are
Well,
staggering
me
numbers
too.
of texts. Eddie P has tweeted a photo to us of Condor Man.
That's
Good.
time
And
well spent, Eddie
It looks
P.
like Liberace crossed with a butterfly. It's a really amazing
And to the many
costume.
people that have texted and emailed saying, "Google it," or "Look on IMDb," we don't. We have you for that. That's your
Yeah.
our search
Rather
engine.
touchingly, 998 has texted just to say RIP1.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so nice.
Gone but not forgotten.
It was quite a long time ago, get over it. Steve Hall, what was your first movie?
Well-
Now, knowing you, I reckon, what do you think, Cockrell? It's got to be sci-fi
Donkey
based.
Punch, Hard Candy, something really harrowing, something awful.
No, it was Skeeky. It would have been a Close Encounters type
Hellraiser.
thing.
It was.
What was it,
well,
Steve?
I
Put us out of our
thought
misery.
For a long time, the first one I attended as a sentient-ish being was
As
E.T.
a centaur.
You
I kept on
dressed
getting
up.
kicked out all the time as Mr. Tumnus. It never really worked out.
Oh, was
I
E.T.?
went, well, I thought it was E.T. until very recently. I was chatting to my mum, and she said, well, technically, the first film that I went to see when I was in my mum's tummy, about 2 weeks before I was born, was apparently Emmanuel.
Wow.
Okay.
My mum and dad went to see... It's the ideal date for an 8.5-month-old... an 8.5-month pregnant lady is Emmanuel. But my dad insists he didn't know what because they were taking their French friend Roz, and they thought, we'll take her to see a
Can
nice
I just
French
say,
film.
I don't like the sound of their relationship with the French friend Roz. That's all I'm saying. A couple taking their French friend Roz to what's effectively a soft porn movie.
But they did not know that.
Frank will be very disappointed. If you're listening at home, Frank, I know you're a big fan of Emmanuel and all in it. He is.
Well, I'd like to think it maybe shaped me to the Lothario that I am now.
Yes. Yeah.
The filthy creep I am is now explained. By,
You are
so
the
it's either
original filthy creep.
yeah,
under
it's
the-
either Emmanuel or E.T.
That's a choice I make most nights with a date.
You're listening to the Frank Skinner podcast from Absolute Radio. Want your Frank fix a little sooner? Listen live every Saturday from 8 a.m. on Absolute Radio. Across the UK on digital radio, mobile apps, and in London and the South East on 105.8 FM.
Absolute Radio.
You can text us in on 81215 this morning. We should say, actually, I'd be quite interested to know, just me, not the boys, what your first film was. And keep it clean.
Well, we have actually received some text messages
Have we?
based on some of the other strands that were already spinning today.
Lovely.
Very nice to hear Steve Hall's dulcet tones. I have a question. How many Valentine's cards did you all send and receive? I should imagine Emily's hands are cramped from repeated envelope opening. I got one card from my husband, but so desperately wanted one from a secret admirer. That's from Jules, 820.
Oh, well, Jules, I've had a few.
And what about Valentine's cards?
Well, what happens when you work in the fashion industry is that PRs...
Let's bond with the people.
Well, what they tend to do... Yeah, you still haven't texted in your private jet experiences, 8, 12,
Well,
15.
you say that, they have.
Oh, okay.
I was coming to that.
Still got Sandy Wars.
Yes,
She's not told anyone about that. She's saving that for autobiography.
indeed. Now, your Valentine's.
Okay, my Valentine's. So people tend to send you flowers, so you get all excited, and the man comes up and goes, "Flowers for Emily," and everyone turns around,
Nice.
and then it's just from Lucy at L'Oreal or whatever. It's very depressing.
Hashtag first world problems.
I said to one of the girls who works with me, I said, "Oh, did you get a nice present from your boyfriend today on Valentine's Day?" She went, "He gave me a paracetamol."
Nice.
Which I thought was very romantic.
Oh, is this one of those jokes? Is he going to do a joke of like, "Oh, so you definitely haven't got a headache, right?" Yeah. Is it one of those? Is that what he's up to?
No, but well done for doing that joke. Have we got time to head into Email Corner, do you think?
Yeah, let's do that.
It wouldn't be right if we didn't play the jingle.
Email Corner. I went for a slightly Mancunian harmony there.
There was shades of Marky Smith.
Thanks very much.
I won't have you drowning out Frank's little Birmingham voice, though.
I'll try not to next time. Hi, Frank, Emily and Alan. I'm a long-term reader of the show and I've always wanted to email but could never think of what to write until now. While driving home a few days ago, I found myself having an argument with an imaginary police officer that had pulled me over because I had my fog lights on when it was only slightly foggy. Bearing in mind this never happened, the imaginary argument then went on for about 10 minutes. I find myself doing this quite often. I think of possible scenarios that could happen in the near future, then I play out multiple strategies in my mind to figure out the best way to handle the situation if it comes true. Is this just something I do, or have you ever found yourself doing the same? Insert praise, non-praise here. Kind regards, Chris from Hornsey. Hornsey?
Oh, lovely.
Yes.
I have to say I totally relate to this.
Me too.
Do you?
Absolutely.
100%.
Oh, we all do it, Chris. This is a phenomenon. Can I tell you what I do? I regularly have imaginary arguments, and it always results in me saying very triumphantly, if they've pulled me over for drink driving, "I haven't had a drink in over 20 years, officer." Actually,
that isn't true, though, is it?
It was last night, normally. But I sometimes say, I imagine I'm not wearing a seatbelt, when I always wear a seatbelt, but I like to imagine I'm not wearing one, and that the officer pulls me over and I say, "I'm pregnant," in an angry tone of voice.
So I think that allows you to not wear a seatbelt.
I don't think it does either.
But I think Chris has summed up my life. This is how I live my life, this nervous
imaginary
planning.
Arguments.
For anything. If it's a debit card transaction for less than £5 for any reason, I have to invent the argument to justify it. If it's a cab ride of quite a short distance, just in case they might say, "Oh, it's only down the road, mate." I'm always ready with, "I'm recovering from a broken leg," or something like that. Any kind of refund or return.
Oh, yes.
You have to have some whole backstory.
So what sort of thing would you have then? You'd have a backstory prepared?
Yeah, often trying to blame it on someone else. I mean, I bought it for my wife, but she didn't like it, and the marriage has been struggling.
Do you ever find yourself having an imaginary argument and then just saying one sentence of it out loud?
Yeah.
Suddenly you're on a train platform and you go, "I can speak to trading standards," and everyone's looking at you.
I think you'll find Ocean Colour Scene were quite good.
I love Ocean Colour Scene. Get the box set, 21. Is it?
Yeah.
It's worth getting. Anyway.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
You're listening to Emily Dean. I'm standing in for Frank Skinner this morning. You can text us on 81215 and you can follow the show on Twitter at Frank on the Radio. That sounded quite professional, didn't it?
Sounded
Very
really
nice.
professional.
Like a proper DJ. Like Sarah Kennedy or one of those ones.
We don't have to recap on the various text-ins that we've got spinning, do we?
We have many plates in the air.
What have we got? We should say there's...
Well, I think we've answered fairly fully that Condor Man was a film, did exist, and it was Michael Crawford. We've also got Chris from Hornsby's fake scenarios.
Hornsey.
Oh, right, someone's texted saying Chris from Hornsby.
Yeah, which makes him sound like he's a model railway.
But this I really like. Fake scenarios, I even start to get emotional, proper emotional, be angry or sad or giggly. But my favourite one is when I'm on a quiz show and they ask me all the questions that I know the answer to. I feel awesome then. That's from Jane. I actually caught myself having an imaginary conversation with a used car salesman in my head.
Did you?
I've been looking at changing car, and I was sort of going, Well, I'm a cash buyer. I don't see loads of other buyers knocking on the door right now.
Well, and your voice dropped 8 octaves for some reason.
I went a bit wide boy and weird. What's become of me in this imagination game?
We should say Frank used to sit on the toilet and regularly imagine... What did he imagine? He was a football manager?
Yes.
I believe that's... Why I'm on the
Amazing.
toilet, I don't know.
We've also got Have You Ever Been on a Private Jet, which is the less popular of the textings.
That's my demographic.
But Simon Page has texted, I deliver catering to private jets all the time.
Lovely.
I get to go on some amazing planes. I'm on way to Luton to deliver some now. One plane we cater for even has a dance floor on it. Wow.
I bet he looks good on it.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Apart from when it's coming into land.
What I found about the private jet was you can ring ahead with the rider, and mine was Haribo's.
No.
Yeah, I
Fabulous.
asked for that, and there were trays of them everywhere.
We need more of these posh sort of claims to fame texting things. So,
Nice.
What's your favourite caviar?
To be fair, it's not my lifestyle. I've only done it once.
Well, yeah, we've also got what were people's first film?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
other plates. And Marcus from Newbury said his mum took him to see Far From the Madding Crowd when he was 5.
Okay.
The opening scene has a sheep falling off a cliff, and he screamed the cinema down. And Ian Martin has tweeted to say that his first film was Flash, and he very explicitly says, not Flesh, Flash Gordon.
No, Flesh was what your parents took Roz to see in the cinema.
Of
Their
course
French
not.
friend.
Your parents took you to see Emmanuel whilst you were in your mother. Gordon from St Albans has said, my mum took me to the 1962 Scottish Cup final while she was 8 months pregnant.
I love that woman.
I hope she didn't travel from St Albans to the 1962 Scottish Cup final, because that would have been a week on the train. And 8 months pregnant. Oh, awful.
I tell you what we haven't talked about this morning. We haven't talked about Davina.
Oh, my goodness.
What an incredible lady. It's genuinely amazing.
Sorry, are we on the one show?
I said I
No,
wanted
he was
to say
looking
that
at you. He meant, what an incredible lady you
What
are.
an
The
incredible
smoothness with
lady.
which you change subjects on commercial radio. What an incredible lady you are, Emily.
And you said lady,
Come
which
on,
I
Emily.
can't tolerate.
Well, because I've fancied Davina since the days of Man Oh Man on late
Call
night
him-
ITV.
Call him a filthy creep. That's what the people want. You've got to give them
Daisy,
what they
we need a
want.
filthy creep jingle. Can it just be Steve Hall's voice?
The filthy crypt jingle sounds like a bell that needs to be attached around my neck so
Like-
people know when I'm approaching.
A Peter the Wild motif.
Yeah.
Yes, anyway, as you were saying,
it's an
what a
amazing thing,
terrific lady or something quite
Yeah, what a-
70s.
Yeah.
What a great
What a
lady.
terrific lady that I've fancied for 20 years. It's getting
What is it,
creepier by
what
the
is it about
sentence.
Davina that appeals to you?
I think she's very beautiful.
She is
but,
beautiful.
I think she's a genuinely good human being.
Hmm.
She's really funny, really entertaining, but you get that sense of she genuinely cares about people.
Oh.
And it sounds like I'm trying to pitch to her. Hey, Davina,
If
I know
she's
you're
listening.
recovering from having trekked 500 miles, but if you'd like to see a slightly pudgy 37-year-old balding man on a more regular basis, give us a call. We can get
Okay.
up to all manner of grot.
Oh,
Okay, that's the most
dear,
disgusting
dear.
thing I've ever heard.
The Frank Skinner Show on Absolute Radio. Back Saturday morning from 8. Tune in live for the full Frank experience.
Absolute Radio.
What's happening, boys? What's
Well,
up, darling?
I've got another missive from the outside world,
Oh.
and I think you'll like it on several levels, not least because it's factually incorrect.
Oh.
The title is Blue, but he's talking about you being hit on by 5. Do you
Oh,
remember?
good. I
or
thought
not
that might
hit
have
on?
been the second movie that Steve was taken to by his parents in the private cinema
It's a Derek
with-
Jarman classic.
with Roz, that your strange friend.
Just to give a slight recap, you told a story earlier about one of the group 5 looking at you and saying, no. Was it-
Oh, actually, all 5 of them.
Oh, actually, no.
That was my Richard Curtis film. Yeah, actually, no.
Actually, no. Email titled Blue. Hi, Emily. I'm sure the boy band Blue don't know what they were missing. Let's be honest, even combined, they're not a bright bunch. Stuart Kidd, and then his full mobile phone number, which is commendable.
Stuart,
I won't broadcast
let's
that.
talk. Let's keep talking.
We've also had on the subject of the. It's nice that the private jet thread is
It's working.
remaining popular.
You see, I'm a woman of the people.
Cat from Bromsgrove. This is a wonderful story. My mum once told me that I went on a private jet. I didn't. However, it's created the most marvellous false memory.
I love that mother.
Yeah.
I love pathological liar mothers.
That's actually how I'm bringing my children up. They think they've got an amazing life.
Do you know, my parents often tell us that we did things, and I doubt them now. My mother would say, oh, Barbados. We went there. Yes, we went there. No photographs.
Really,
Yeah.
you were in Pontins as much as in the rain.
Pethwelly, I believe it's called.
Pethwelly,
Have you heard of that?
Yes, a place.
Oh, okay.
I've heard of Betheli, yeah.
So what else were we talking about? We were talking about
Davina.
Boy Band
Davina.
5, and I did say about the Boy Band 5 in between links, didn't I? I'm going to admit it. I said they're not even the same species as me. And I'm afraid they're not. I wouldn't date you anyway.
Yeah.
Okay?
Don't say that looking at me. You mean 5?
Yeah.
Give me a
It's a
fixed
shame that's
stare.
You
No,
need
no.
to join my species before I'll date
Give
you.
them another chance. When the lazy days are dying, gotta keep on flying. All the bees and birds are flying.
Are you all right, Stephen?
Sorry, I had a moment.
That was
I got possessed by
absolutely
Jay.
extraordinary.
I think I found that more upsetting than you trying to seduce Davina
Yeah,
McCall
yeah.
on air.
Well, I like to think they might get 17p in PRS fees from me doing that.
Do you know what
as well.
that reminded me of? That was like when Richard Madeley dressed up as Ali G.
I think that was less damaging to his credibility than what I just did.
I think you might be right. We need to talk more about this, and we need to talk about Davina.
Yes.
But in the meantime, I believe Five's people are on the phone to me.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
This is Emily Dean. I'm sitting in for Frank Skinner this morning. We miss you and love you, Frank. That was actually sincere. There's no
That was
joke.
nice, that was lovely.
I love the guy. What can I do?
He is still doing his stand-up gig tonight. He's just got a sore throat, so he's
Yes.
resting his voice. We should just say, if you've got tickets,
Don't-
don't not go.
No,
'cause
don't not go, for goodness
We've all
sake.
seen the show, and it's very
It's
funny.
excellent.
One thing Frank doesn't like is an empty room. He's like me in that respect.
Or praise on the radio, so sorry about that.
No. He likes praise. Let's get this absolutely straight.
Mm-hmm.
As I said to Graham Norton, he likes praise. What he doesn't like is boasting about praise.
All right.
You know, so self-referential praise, if
Right,
you like.
yeah. Love the show.
Yeah,
Emails.
exactly.
Yeah.
Don't say love the show.
I will say this.
Yes.
I'm just really angry with the wind. Not a quote from Mrs. Cochrane, although it is, but we blamed pickled onions, and that whole episode has been put to bed. It's a quote of Davina McCall. She got angry at the weather, which
Yes.
is a very British thing to
I
do.
love the slightly Alan Partridge way in which you delivered that story. It was
I'm
brilliant.
just really angry with the wind.
Yeah. That's what she said. So this was during her endurance feat, wasn't it?
500 miles.
So upsetting.
All right, proclaimers.
I really think if you're doing something like that for charity and there's extreme weather, like properly an act of God, you should be allowed to just fold your bike up and put it in a taxi like I do with my Brompton.
I do.
She should have just got like a 500-mile taxi journey.
I was going to say,
not fair.
because this thing we should say. So it was cycling, swimming, and running.
and running.
Yeah.
Is this correct?
Yeah.
And it was Edinburgh to London.
Yeah, she's been very candid about it. She said, I've been to some very dark places. I don't think she should describe the north of England like that. I think there's some really lovely spots.
But it's a staggering achievement, and the footage of her
Oh, listen
when she
to
was crying.
Steve. He can't. Honestly.
All right.
Well, it's because
God, you love her.
Well, I'm currently on crutches from a very tiny football injury.
I noticed the crutches this morning. I thought it might be
Crutch
an accessory.
singular.
It looked a bit Karl Lagerfeld. Autumn, winter 14, so I didn't know what to say.
Well, I have 5 steps that I have to go up to exit
Don't
my
mention
flat.
5. Don't mention 5.
Don't
That's
mention
really
5.
upset. Or steps.
Actually, nah.
Actually, no.
Yeah.
And I had to go up 5 steps, and it was a bit rainy, and my leg was hurting so much I genuinely started to cry
Oh, no.
earlier this week.
Is that rheumatism then?
It's
Well, if it's raining.
Just really soft. He's
yeah,
just a
it's
softie.
just being a pathetic human being.
Mr.
I
Soft. That's what he is.
I thought there'd be a really glamorous story behind that injury.
Well, it was a football injury. It was comedians' football.
Okay.
So
How did you hurt yourself watching?
So I've looked up.
Who are you playing with? Johnny Vegas?
I've looked up. I've seen the space.
Yes.
I'm trying to use the footballer's tense.
Oh, good boy.
I've run through on a beautiful through ball from Rob Beckett. Lovely
Lovely.
comedian, massive face.
Yeah.
And I've seen Russell Howard in the space. I've looked to put him through. I felt someone kick me from behind. Looked over my shoulder. Nobody there.
Oh, no. Hamstring popped.
Steve.
Calf tear.
Oh, Achilles.
I
That's your
thought it. Well, that
Achilles
was.
heel,
I was
isn't it?
worried. My Achilles is very much my Achilles heel.
That's quite glamorous. That's quite David Beckham, that, isn't it?
It was
Achilles.
exactly like Beckham. It was, if anything, it was a bit more classy than when Beckham did his
doubt
Achilles.
So, Davina, we have to say, can I just say she was joined on this jaunt by various celebrities along the way, wasn't she?
Yeah, Grimmy.
Oh, was he there?
Yeah, Mel Gavroich.
And there were some celebrities, yeah.
There's a fantastic caption in one of the papers where it had her crying her most, bountiful tears, and the caption underneath read, "She was joined on the run by Chris Moyles."
Can we talk about his thinness? Never mind 6 weeks to OMG, 6 weeks to Mortificado.
You're listening to Frank Skinner's podcast from Absolute Radio.
We were talking about Davina's. Quite impressive achievement, I have to say.
Yes.
But I also want to talk a little bit about Chris Moyles. What go on with Chris Moyles and the weight loss? It's too much.
What's happened?
Well, I'll tell you what's happened. He's done. He's dieted. He's done 6 weeks to OMG or some such. Mm-hmm. And what he hasn't factored in is the size of the head.
Oh, yeah.
It's all gone a bit TFI Friday. You know how Frank says Ryan Giggs has the look of a slightly haunted, deposed Middle Eastern dictator because of the thinness? Yeah. I think Chris Moyles is one of those.
Oh, really?
I can see him in sort of military ensemble, looking slightly haunted.
That must be quite a weird thing if you it must be a really brilliant thing to lose all that weight. You must work so hard.
Thank you very much.
And then discover that you look worse than you did.
Thank you, not so much. No, you're right. It's unfortunate, but the good thing is, look, he can just start eating Ginsters again, and everything will be fine.
Yeah, it's a bit of a result. I thought it was great that she did it, and I share her pain about being upset at the weather. I think I suppose it is quite British. My wife and I frequently have a little bonding conversation where we discuss how much we hate the low winter sun. Do you ever drive into the low winter sun and go, why is this... Why is it so low in the winter? It's really annoying. It hides all summer and then it turns up in winter to torment you.
I sometimes do that when I'm driving down the road and I can't see! I can't see anything!
Curse the low winter sun.
I like the fact that the things about the weather that annoy you sound like a Philip Larkin poem.
Thank you.
Why
do natural
curse the low winter sun? What on earth was that noise? That is the low winter sun. It's just phoned in. The low winter sun says it hates you too, Alan.
Turns out that we've got a Philip Larkin alarm as well as an A.E. Houseman alarm.
That's from a friend of mine who's just texted me.
Philip Larkin?
It's my friend Kitty.
You can't read it out. It'll be full of swearing if it's Larkin.
I can't read it out. I'm afraid it's very X-rated. I haven't told you about my relationship with my friend Kitty. She always has to get a little word in, has to steal the attention from me. Has everyone turned their phones off, by the way? Can we check?
Well, evidently not everyone.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and I'd like to apologise. Frank will be listening at home. He'll be very upset. But can I just say, at least I have a very pretty, elegant-sounding text alert rather than the clown car horn, which he seems to favour.
It's a good thing it wasn't the crazy frog or something like that.
No, or the other one I used to have, which Frank used to call Cliff Richard's car alarm, because it sounded slightly religious, a bit bells-like. I know what you mean about the sort of forces of nature. I sometimes get that. I've cried at the wind before.
Me too, but that's the pickled onions. Sorry.
But it contributes nothing to society.
Wind?
Yeah. I mean, I can see how rain, it assists the environment.
Yeah.
It's all part of God's great plan. Mm-hmm. What does wind do? All it does is mess up your hair and reveal your panties.
Well, in fact, you basically sounded like a UKIP of nature. I mean, the wind, it comes over here, what does it do? It doesn't do anything. It's lazy.
It's taking stuff away.
Frank Skinner
on Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
Mr. Cockerell?
Yes.
That's my slightly creepy name for you.
Yeah, I think I prefer the cocksportive.
Frank Skinner's not the only one on tour at the moment, is he?
Well, I'm not on tour, but I am doing comedy clubs.
Okay.
I'm sort of developing some new stand-up.
Lovely.
After taking a little sabbatical for my acting career, don't you know? Oh.
Have you seen him since the acting career? He's a very different character these days.
Aren't I? I mean, the cravat's a bit too much, but...
The spats are nice.
Yes, aren't they?
Mm.
He
starts to say things like, "It's a lovely little theatre, actually."
Yeah, although that's not they're not the gigs I'm doing at the moment. What I've been doing is, when comedy club promoters email or text me saying, "Do you want a gig?" I've now been saying yes instead of thinking, "No, I'd rather stay in my house watching Netflix." So I've done a couple of gigs this week that really should not have worked. There are certain rules to gigs.
Okay, what are they?
Usually there's a tipping point in terms of the number of seats compared to the number of audience. And in an ideal world, you want about 50% or more of people to seats. But yeah, I did a gig the other night in Leeds, and there was something like 40 people in. Could have comfortably put 200 or 300 in there.
Okay.
Brilliant fun. Really enjoyable gig. Don't ask me why, just was. And I did another one, much smaller room. It was in a pub, and this is...
You lost me at pub.
Steve will know this. There are occasionally gigs where someone goes, oh, rather than have a function room, what we're going to do is that corner of the pub there, we're just going to put a black curtain up.
No.
And people will walk through it, and that will be the section of the gig.
That'll be the goth section.
So there's people on the other side of the curtain that can hear every word of the show but have paid nothing and have got no obligation to not talk loudly.
Can I ask a question
And the
now?
gig went really well, it worked,
Yeah.
but had 20 people that had just been playing five-a-side come for a pint, it would have been ruined immediately because you wouldn't have been able to hear it. Like, there would have been too much talking on the other side. And I did point out that it was working because it was in Manchester. Had it been in Yorkshire, all of the audience would have been on the other side of the curtain, listening to the show, going, well, I could get it for free over here, I don't need to see it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, you may.
Can we just be a bit forensic about the fabric of the curtain? Things like this matter to me.
I mean, I thought leopard print was too much, but...
No, I'm assuming black.
No, it was just a plain black curtain like you would find at
There's no such thing as plain black curtain. Was it... Can I ask a question?
Honestly, there is.
Please don't say there was gaffer tape holding it up.
No, I think it was railed. Is that what
was there a bit hanging down?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
it was all hanging down at the curtain. What do you think, it was flat?
No, but like a bit had come loose.
Oh, yeah. And the mic didn't work. There was all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Emily doesn't care about that. This is the difference between comedians.
Yeah, exactly.
People go, oh, how did the room play? And what were the crowd like? Going, tell me about the exact fabric. What were the curtain rings like?
It was
Ideal in textiles.
It was really enjoyable, though. And one of the things... I mean, behind the curtain is a phrase, isn't it? For what people say, oh, I've given you a glimpse behind the curtain, because you get to see the mechanics of the show. But this, if you went behind the curtain, you saw the show. There was no behind the curtain. The gig was behind the curtain. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You should be grateful for the curtain. I've done a gig once in a Holiday Inn in Amesbury, and it was in the bar of a hotel, and there was just the only thing that delineated the space between the people who were having a drink in the bar and the gig was one chair.
No. Was this gig run by a philosopher? Can I make this one chair signify the difference between the payers and the non-payers?
Reminds me of the Rolling Stones in Hyde Park. Exactly the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Us inside, and then the tight-fisted people in Hyde Park.
The Frank Skinner Show. Listen live every Saturday morning from 8 on Absolute Radio.
Alan, what's wrong with you?
It's too hot in here. It's boiling. I know we like to do this bit off air, but it's roasting.
It's getting hot in here.
No,
I'm keeping air conditioning.
I'm keeping all my clothes on.
Can I just say, I've been learning from the jockeys that this is the thing to do. You just sweat all the calories off. Could you adjust the heating, please, Steve?
I think it's been done.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
what were we talking about? We were talking about you doing a gig behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a film with Matt Damon?
Something like that. Well, actually, on the subject of films, we were talking about the first films we went to see.
Oh, yeah.
We've had a text from Kathy from Cleethorpes. Emily, Alan, my mum took me to see Kramer versus Kramer when I was 9. Anyone know a good child psychologist? Kathy from Cleethorpes, now 43. I think that ship has sailed for child... Don't child psychologists deal with children? And adult psychologists deal with problems that you had when you were a child, isn't that?
Unless she wants a child psychologist, she wants to talk to a 10-year-old.
Can I say, that can be another text in. What do child psychologists deal with on 8, 12, 15? We've also got, tell us your private jet experiences.
That would be quite a harrowing text.
Yes, it would be.
We've had a complaint about the wind. That's one of our other plates in here.
My wife texted in.
Noodle has texted to say the winter...
Oh, he's one of my regulars.
Yes.
Hi, Noodle.
Said the winter elements also gave way to a rise in crime. The wind stole his hat last week. Emily wouldn't approve, but I did give chase along the street in a rather humiliating fashion, like chasing a knitted chicken.
Of course, that's what it's like.
See, this is what I hate about the wind, and I know I've said it contributes nothing to society. What I hate about the wind is, it's just... I was outside a hotel, and... I'm sort of self-editing this story as I tell it. But I was outside a hotel, and the umbrella, you know when it upturns? Oh, yeah. There's nothing worse.
Oh, well, I hate the umbrella, but I hate the upturned umbrella even more.
Don't hate the umbrella, hate the game.
That's what they say. On the subject of nature stealing hats, I was once out running in a neon yellow...
So is this you, Alan Cochrane, talking?
Me, Alan Cochrane, in a neon yellow Dayglow beanie thing.
Sarah Harding.
And I ran past a bramble bush, and the bramble snatched my hat off. And I thought, it's got a bit chilly, and I had to turn and run back 10 yards to my hat. I mean, I'm a gangly... I look like a dork, even when my hat isn't stolen by local hedges, but...
Those are the bits where, if heaven existed, that would be in your blooper reel when you get to heaven. Like, your best bits when St. Peter comes and goes, Alan, who could forget this moment?
Yeah, and another one would be about 3 weeks ago when I left, after we did this show and I had brunch, I then got onto my folding bike and I was cycling to Euston and I took a wrong turn, so I was cycling up a one-way road the wrong way, and so in order to get off that road, I too quickly turned right, hit a pothole, and went over the handlebars on a folding bike. And I'm gangly. So, for listeners...
I wish I'd seen that.
If you can picture a giant spider falling off a penny farthing, that's what it looked like.
I'm going to tell you what's in my blooper reel when I get to heaven, is me locked outside a country estate naked.
This is
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
You're listening to Emily Dean. I'm sitting in for Frank Skinner this morning. You can text the show on 81215 or you can follow us on Twitter. What's our Twitter handle, Cockerel?
At Frank on the Radio.
Oh, that was so seamless. I loved it. I've got the Cockerel.
I'm not that interested in the Twitter. But
You hate the Twitter. And we have Steve Hall in the house.
We've heard from the outside world.
Have we?
Yeah, we've had a text just informing you.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that you said gaffer tape about the curtain.
Yes, I did.
We've had a text. Please tell Ms. Dean that there is no such thing as gaffer tape. That's a name used by the uninformed Ponzi people. It's duct tape. Now 462, you sound like real fun to hang about with.
And they are entirely wrong.
You are wrong.
They
yeah.
are 100% incorrect. They are completely separate types of tape.
Yes.
Look, I'm going to... It's an industry thing, 462. The gaffer, I believe it's named after the gaffer in film and TV, isn't it? The lighting technician.
Right?
I believe so.
I thought you were going to say it was named after Bill Maynard, who was the gaffer. But
Yeah.
It's named after Al Murray, because it's his gaff.
the governor tape as well.
I think it's gaffer tape is designed to be cleanly removed. You can just... duct tape is not designed to be cleanly removed.
Duct tape is designed to be
Like
thrown at someone
if-
who then has to duck.
If Frank Skinner was playing Mowgli, let's say, and he needed it to do the nappy things up,
Oh, yeah.
then it would be nice, clean break when he took the nappies off.
Nice. Well, it is
That's
nice.
that is
clean break,
a beautiful tableau you
A
painted.
little bit of nappy free time is lovely, isn't it? I know, I enjoy it.
I think it's time we went over to Email Corner. So I can't find the jingle, so you know what I'm going to go for?
Just
Email corner.
nice.
I love that. Oh, shut up. Shut up.
That sounds like your text. Your phone is getting another text. We've had an email from Lee,
Yes.
who says, "Ahoy there, Frank and team. I hope this email finds you well. I was watching the TV channel Challenge today at lunchtime, and Blankety Blank was on, hosted by a young, well, middle-aged, Terry Wogan. It struck me what a good programme this would be to be brought back with Frank as the host.
Lovely.
You won't find it hard to believe that even to be watching an old episode of Blankety Blank that I had some time to waste, so I went on to put some meat on the bones of the idea.
Like
It'd be
to turn a phrase here.
I
Yeah,
do. It's
it's
very
like,
Heston
yeah.
Blumenthal of him.
Said it would be a good chance to have Emily and Alan on as semi-regular celebrity guests. Emily as a modern-day Lorraine Chase or Faith Brown.
Thanks very much.
And the Cockerel as this generation's Barry Cryer.
I'm not sure
What
he
do you
does
think?
quite so many wind-based jokes, but yes.
Yes.
Said, should he start a campaign?
I'd be delighted to be filling Barry Cryer's shoes. He's a legend, isn't he?
He's great.
I've got him on the list for people that I'm going to interview on Absolute Legend when I take over that station.
Have you ever done Just a Minute with him? I'd imagine.
I haven't. No, I don't think he does Just a Minute. He might.
Steve's going to start talking about Dick Fiddy.
Is he?
I tell you,
Don't you say a word against Dick Fiddy.
I think Frank would actually be excellent hosting that. Can you imagine him singing Super Match Game, Super Match Game?
And also, surely Blankety Blank nowadays would have an actual added frisson, because all the blanks would seem like swear words, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Or is that what they did anyway?
Pretty
know,
much.
when I go on-
The thing is, Blankety Frank.
Oh.
But Blankety Frank would imply that because he's getting on a bit, he just needs something to keep himself warm.
Need some
I
cue
can't
cards.
believe this has
Blankety
been
Frank
said on
is just
Absolute
him being
Radio.
pushed.
These are shocking scenes today from Absolute Radio. What about just Frankety Frank? I'd watch that.
Oh, yeah.
But
There's definitely catchphrases to be got there, isn't there? Being
when we
called
go
Frank and
on
hosting.
Frankety Frank, I might create a bit of a character and have a catchphrase. If anyone has any ideas, they can text in on 8 12 15.
What about
I'll
the
dye my hair
catchphrase-
red and have comedy glasses.
What about the catchphrase, I came here on a private jet, you know? That would work.
Yeah.
wouldn't it? That would
No, it
work
might be
for you.
something a bit more crowd pleasing, like shouldn't but would.
Shouldn't but would.
Oh,
Just pointing
Frank,
at somebody.
Shouldn't but would. I'll just say it repeatedly the entire show. And I might end up becoming one of the most hated women in Britain.
This is
Frank Skinner, Absolute Radio.
We need to talk briefly about my arch nemesis.
Who's that?
Gary Barlow. Remember he stole a part from me in Miranda?
Did you know about this, Steve?
I have.
Although it turned out he didn't, it was somebody else.
Oh.
But, you know, for the sake of a bit of fun, because
Yeah.
I'm a real ray of sunshine, I'll keep the game going.
I like Gary because he's had food issues. He's one cupcake away from a popping button, I always think.
He's bought his wife a black cab, a taxi.
Oh, happy Valentine's.
Yeah, that's nice, isn't it?
You shouldn't have. No, really, you shouldn't have.
Yeah. Do you think he's going to send her out to work? Is that what he's up to? Like, have the sales of the album not been that spectacular?
I
and
imagine he's
gone,
quite careful with
I've
the
got
coppers.
a fallback plan.
Things aren't doing so well, Dawn. You're going to have to go and earn some pennies. Start bringing the bacon home.
Was it a legitimate way to just have loads of receipts that he can claim back against tax?
Wow, Gary's got a lot
you
of
know-
taxes this year.
That's actually not a bad idea. Thank you for that, Steve Hall in the
Bad
house.
idea. I like the idea. I
And if
think-
the Inland Revenue are listening, you do pretty well out of me, so don't complain.
You tell them.
He's not the only... You see, there is a little club called Celebrity Black Cab Drivers, because there's Dawn Barlow.
Dawn Barlow
Terrible
now.
name, that.
It said in the paper that the black cab is like between 25 and 40 grand. He could
I
have
know.
got an actual car for that. A better one.
Well, there's Stephen Fry.
Stephen Fry. And
Can you
Kate-
imagine if you got
Kate
into his
Moss as
cab?
well.
I'd cry, I'd walk. I'd rather go Shanks's pony than Fry. Can you imagine? Old Kent Road, please, mate. Ah, Kent, the Garden of England. He wouldn't shut up.
And did the Duke of Edinburgh have one as well?
Yeah,
Didn't he?
apparently so.
Yeah, and the good thing about that is that he'd expressed the same views on immigration as most cabbies.
But it'd be quite nice if you met a celebrity driving their cab, because you can then go, you never guess who I had in the front of my cab.
Yeah.
I'd like to be a black cab driver, then I could say, you'll never guess who I had in the back of my cab, and it would take on a totally different meaning.
Is it that so they can drive in the taxi lanes? Is that the...
No, I don't think it is. I think it's just that they like the shape of it. Apparently they're quite good fun to drive and you can fit
Are
lots
they?
of people in the back, so why not? That's what I say.
I know Kate Moss has got one.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if you got in Kate Moss's cab? I hope you don't mind, but I've just got to pick up this guy Spider on the way. I met him in Ibiza, he's really nice, I like him.
A lot of my audiences think I should get a black cab. I hear Taxi for the Comedian. I hear that a great deal.
Through the curtain.
Hey, I'll tell you what I like the idea of, guys. Never mind a black cab. What about a London bus? Me in a bus.
Oh, a bus would be great. fun,
Me
wouldn't
on
it?
my own, just in the bus.
Yeah.
I'd play some music, thong song or something, windows down. I'd take great pleasure in pulling up to the bus stop, and then I'd see all their expectant faces, and then I'd just
Not even open
leave
the doors.
scorched earth. Yeah.
You could
meanies.
remake Summer Holiday. You in the Cliff Richard role.
You can buy an ambulance on eBay. I've had a look. Sometimes I drink and the rest of the family are asleep upstairs, and I just catch myself just, surfing the internet.
That's a dodgy bid on eBay, that.
Isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
I'd love to see Prince Philip in a cab, though. Do you reckon he'd be a good driver? I think he might drive like a lunatic.
Well, he drove the old horse and trap. He used to drive that pretty well, so...
I think he'd veer to the right, put it that way.
I think he'd be very, get out of my way, poor people. Kind of warming to him.
You're listening to the Frank Skinner podcast from Absolute Radio. Want your Frank fix a little sooner? Listen live every Saturday from 8 a.m. on Absolute Radio. Across the UK on digital radio, mobile apps, and in London and the South East on 105.8 FM.
Absolute Radio.
Steve
Hall in the house. I believe you have some news for us.
Indeed, it's been a few months since I've last been on the show, and my exciting news. It's quite obviously it's quite a weird being happy and optimistic about a thing. Ordinarily, I'm meant to be cynical and just talk about Dick Fiddy. But my wife and I are having our first baby.
Congratulations.
Oh,
I have
Steve!
successfully impregnated my good lady wife.
Okay.
Well,
I'm really glad you put that on, because I think he was about to be awful.
Steve, tell us about it.
well, it's great. It's
Nicely.
due out.
Tell us nicely about it,
Our
Steve.
first release is due out June the 12th.
Do you think this is how Simon Cowell told people?
I'm very excited.
June the 12th, the opening day of the World Cup. So we're giving some thought to... We don't know if it's a boy or a girl. We're electing not to know.
Okay.
We're tempted
It is definitely
to name
a boy or a girl. It's
Yes.
not a member of five.
Actually,
Another species.
I don't want it to be born and then look at it and go, actually, nah. Well, we're tempted to name its first day of the World Cup is when it's due out, so we're tempted to name it after the first scorer.
Oh.
And it's Brazil-Croatia, I think, is the first game. So Neymar Hall.
Or Jules Rimet. Just go for a
Do you know, that's
Like
a
that's
lovely
quite a
name,
nice
Jules Rimet.
Jules Rimet Hall. That'd be all right, wouldn't it?
I'd definitely date someone called that. Male or female, I'm not fussy.
I've heard.
Congrats, you're well done, though. That's lovely news.
It's pretty overwhelming. I'm interested by people's experiences. I don't know if you're meant to be as terrified as I am.
Well, I forgot to have children, as you may or may not be aware.
I did not. It made me feel like a hunter-gatherer briefly. Is that something that's happened to you? Have you thought, I'm going to have to get good at this,
there is
like
that sense of, I must learn to do the basics of life.
Yeah.
So what have you been doing in preparation?
So much.
Well, we're doing... my wife's big into yoga and mindfulness. There's a mindfulness yoga... Yeah.
My wife's big into yoga. She's bang up for it, yoga.
But she had to do... She's been doing this baby yoga thing. And they
I
literally
don't like the sound of that.
They get you to imagine that you are the baby, and you have to sort of... I won't go into overly graphic detail, but they imagine that you are the baby pushing against the bits that you have to push against to get in.
The escape hatch. Let's say the escape hatch.
The escape hatch, indeed. And you have to imagine...
the escape hatch, yeah? Through the trapdoor.
So you
sunroof.
You create the escape hatch with your hands, and then you put the top of your head against it, and you imagine you're the baby emerging.
I think I'd rather talk about Dick Fiddy, Steve, to be honest.
And,
can't they just do a sun salutation and go home? Is that not...
Can't they just go and buy Peruvian scarf?
It's one of the strangest... Because everyone's laughing, and the yoga instructor is getting annoyed, because everyone is realising it's just... Because you look like some weird Pan's People tribute dance group. And then part of the mindfulness thing is they try and tell you during labour, you think about things as they are, you try and stay in the moment, and that helps you chill out. And so one of the things they think about is the fact that the pain, this is what they tell you, the pain during childbirth lasts a combined total of only 12 minutes.
That's not
That's
bad.
the amount of pain.
Really?
And I've said that
That's
to
like dating a member of five.
But every woman I've spoken to who has given birth has laughed their backside off when you go, oh yeah, only 12 minutes of pain, yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Daisy, you've given birth. What do you say to that?
24 hours.
24 hours of pain.
We once interviewed a doula who's like a sort of a female helper for the birthing mother, and she said, through good breathing, I find that you can have a pain-free birth. And at that point, we opened the door and said, OK, you're done. Next interview.
See, I think
like
I was quite a good female birthing helper. When my sister gave birth, I walked into the labour ward. And I said, do you like my new shoes? That's honestly what I said.
What people need is a distraction.
It was a distraction. She went, great shoes.
Some Jimmy Choos are the
And
way
then
to
she
do that.
vomited.
Fabulous. Well, can you imagine the punch I would receive if my wife was midway through giving birth, the most painful experience, and I went, come on, love, it's only 12 minutes.
Yeah. You're
Stop
on minute
crying.
8 of pain. Calm down, dear.
Not
Keep
the
a bit
first
back.
time you've ever said that, Steve, I believe.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
So at some point, eventually, Steve, you'll get to go to some baby groups, and as a fellow comedian, I think you'll enjoy those. 'Cause they're effectively a captive audience where people are just slightly highly strung, and it doesn't take an awful lot to storm it. You can
Really?
Yeah, you can just chip in.
Do you become
with,
friends with all the people, then, that you go to these groups with?
Well, I think most
I've also
people
it's a bit of
do.
an odd way to select friends, but that's just me.
I think most people
You're
become...
having a baby too!
Yeah, they become what they call NTSC buddies or NTC buddies.
Oh.
What we elected to do was to move 200 miles away from those people. Different strokes for different folks. That's how we were rolling. But yeah, I mean, some weird questions. We were in one, and the woman said, has anybody got any questions about the baby? And this gentleman put his hand up and said, yeah, how soon can I shave the baby's head? and the woman said...
Was it Charles Bronson?
No, it was this guy, and she, like a sort of a right-on sort of... She went, is that a thing that you would want to do for cultural reasons? And he said, no, I'm just wondering. Just wanted to know. How soon can you... Well, I never really got a definitive answer, but I thought it was one of the strangest
I
questions.
love the sound of that Mitchell brothers' father.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it is remarkable the different human responses you get. It's really. Look, I was so excited the day that we knew it was definitely happening. I was so overexcited. I told the audience on stage in Leicester.
Wow.
I was so happy. I just went, we've done it. And someone immediately.
I hope you then went on to say, "We've done it, and we're having a baby as a result."
Yeah. And someone immediately shouted out, "It's not yours."
Oh, that's what happens.
Welcome to Leicester.
If you express honesty to a stand-up comedy audience.
That's what I shout to some of the footballers at various games.
Someone else also told me, it's odd the thing, the wisdom people get. One old lady after a gig, she just went, "You'll never look at poo the same way." And just going to go, I don't really know how I looked at poo before.
Yeah, well now, you just become...
absolutely awful.
You become more comfortable around it. I smelt some
I
whilst
don't want to
eating a
discuss
yogurt
it
the other
any...
day.
I'm not comfortable
Awful.
around it. I've still got standards.
Well...
Can I tell you... That's not true, for a start. Can I tell you what I don't like, listeners? What the Cockerel's done, we were talking about extreme weather conditions, and we all know the Cockerel's got an issue with low winter sun, am I right?
Oh, God, yeah.
So what he says, he turns round to Daisy, and he suddenly says... Sort the blinds.
I didn't say
So
sort
he
the
did.
blinds.
So she's
I said
lowered the
very politely, could you lower the blinds,
Well, the
please?
blinds have been lowered, and it's all gone a bit, you can leave your hat on.
Dark in here.
That's all I'm saying. It's like the beginning to the worst porn film in the world.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't like it. Well, Steve, this is very exciting news, and we're very happy for you.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
congrats.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Looking forward to the birth of Eric.
You can't.
Are you allowed
Eric
to-
Hall is the late great
Oh, of
departed
course,
agent.
yeah.
So
Are you allowed to discuss any potential names, or not at this stage in the game?
We've been talking names, but because we were going to call it, we wanted to call it Frank. My wife's granddad was called Frank. But her twin
Shut up.
brother has just beaten. So he had his first child
Oh, that
a few
happens.
months ago, and they've named it Frank after
People
their
beat you
granddad.
to the name. And also, I think it's worth not telling people before the child is born, because then if people go, oh, they put you off a name that you really liked, and so you're back to square one.
Everyone knew a horrible Harriet. You know, it's that thing, isn't it?
Did they?
Yeah, I did.
It's also with the surname Hall. There are certain names just
Yeah,
obviously.
Harriet Hall, and you
Yeah.
don't want HH, do you?
They can sound like a hospice. Like Harriet Hall sounds like a palliative care place, or Albert Hall. You can't have Jack Hall, Day of the Jack Hall.
That's true.
I like that. I will keep us posted on names then.
Well,
I don't think
We
that. I
could
don't
workshop
think.
it over brunch.
I think
I might call it Alan. Would that be weird if I called it just Alan after?
I think you shouldn't call it Frank. That's a bad idea.
Well, particularly because Frank Hall, there's the horse Frankel, so
Oh.
you can't really call it named after a popular horse. Frankel.
Yes, I'm familiar with that.
I believe we're going to sashay onto Email Corner as well now.
Okay.
Hi Frank, Emily and Alan. I was listening to your podcast from the 25th of January and I couldn't help hearing that one of you seems to have a creaky chair. That's me this
Oh,
week.
yes.
Let me just illustrate.
Have you got the creaker?
There it is. But the sound effect comes across as that of a turnstile like you have in the entrance of the baths. You do, I don't.
Yeah. Oh, I can hear it.
I spent the entire show imagining people coming through with a rolled-up towel. Maybe Frank would like to add this to his extensive sound effect repertoire. Love the show. Oh, I read out the love the show bit. I was so distracted by the sound
You mustn't
effect.
ever read out praise.
I like her phrase "entrance of the bar." She's writing from 1968.
Yes.
See, I have a sort of Hobson's choice every Saturday. I'm not referring to Alan and Steve. But it's, do I go for the creaker or do I go for the slider?
Yeah, well,
Again,
that is-
I'm not referring to Alan and Steve. But I sometimes find, for example, this morning, Al, I had the slider, didn't I? Where the cushion slides off.
Yes, and it's I've swapped with you. Actually, the creaker and the slider are the same one, aren't they?
What is it with these chairs? It's like some Oxford University interview where they're trying to psych you out.
To be honest, it sounds a lot like my hip clicking anyway, so I'm quite comfortable
That's the
with
thing,
this
because
noise.
I'm aware of your back issue. So when I heard that, I was worried.
Oh, it's just Alan's sacroiliac joint playing him up.
Sounds like the old Curiosity shop in here.
The Frank Skinner Show. Listen live every Saturday morning from 8 on Absolute Radio.
Oh, you know who I want to talk about?
Ray Mears, the survivalist.
No.
Oh, okay.
Nancy DeLolio.
Oh?
Do you know what I love about Nancy? Everything.
Everything. That was going to be my guess, I've got to be honest.
She often gets a mention on the show.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can call her a friend of the show, because really that's Frank's call.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's at least friends with benefits of the show, isn't she?
Yeah.
She's almost friend of the show. She's well known for her work let's say in the football community. And she's now decided she'd like to try her hand at commentating.
Yeah.
What do we think about this? I believe her exact words were, "I want to be commentator, but not about technique."
Yes.
Yeah.
And in that accent. Yeah.
In that accent entirely.
It's like she walked into the room and took over hosting the show. That I was looking and seeing Nancy Delolio.
Yeah.
I mean, if Robbie Savage can do it, why not her?
Well, this is true.
I love it. I love. She said in the interview that she's done, she said that she would discuss other things too, and other things is in inverted commas. Is it just me, or is that a threat to the football community that she's going to commentate and gossip simultaneously? Which I think would be fun, like when she's watching and playing, oh yeah, he slept with the captain's wife.
Sort of what I do, to be honest.
It's great.
I also love the fact she said she can't go to England, she can't watch England's first game in the World Cup because she's going to a wedding. And I love that. If all commentators were like that, if it was John Watson just going, yeah, I'm here at Tony's stag, it's kicking off a bit, he's had a bit too much to drink.
I like the fact that she's saying that just in case there's any broadcasters listening with their Filofax out going, oh, we've got to get Nancy, hang on a minute, when's the first... Oh, she's going to a wedding, that's...
I'd love it if Gary Lineker used that as an excuse why he couldn't commentate on an England game. I'll ask him anyway. Actually, I had a Starbucks with him this week. I was desperate to get that in.
Really nice. But it's great, because I'm glad that Nancy is still going. Because I sort of regard her as a kind of...
I don't think she'll be very happy with that review.
Well,
still going.
Yeah, I regard her as a creature of our recent social history. There are things...
Okay.
I don't know. I regard her in the same capacity as sort of Ballykiss Angel or the blokes from Hearsay.
Okay.
Where every now and then they can go, oh, them! Yeah, I completely forgot about them.
Does this mean that she'll probably end up on The Voice?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, no, you see, to me, she's really a vital part of my cultural life. Yeah.
Well, she seemed, from the pictures of her, she seems to have a promising career as Dorian from Birds of a Feather.
Oh, Dorian Gray, I thought you were going to say. I tell you what, I'd like to hear her commentating, though. Can you imagine what she'd say? She'd be a bit like when I watch football, though. Mm-hmm. She would comment on the clothes. Coat in technical area, atrocious. That's how she talked. I think it's good, though. I think she'd bring a lot to it.
Well, a couple of my mates from university have become sports commentators, and it's quite lovely to see their progress. Two friends of mine. There's Steph Guerrero.
He went to university with Loro.
Yeah, I did. He's an excellent rugby commentator in Wales and does a lot of Welsh sport.
Really?
And there's another fellow called John Harris Bass who's been on Eurosport and does a lot of tennis.
I'm not being rude, but they're not famous enough. Hey, I'm really sorry, Steve.
You are and you are.
But I've just described going for a coffee with Gary Lineker. And you're giving me some Cestic Fiddy or whatever his name is.
I've got
on
Eurosport.
You went
I don't know any sports commentators.
Come on.
Starbucks with Gary Lineker is
my autobiography.
That sounds like a sequel to An Evening with Gary Lineker. a Starbucks with Gary Lineker.
Can I say he looked immaculate as well?
Yes.
He looks great.
Mm-hmm. I've got nothing bad to say about them.
Did you get papped in Starbucks?
No.
That would be bad.
Much to my chagrin.
Absolute Radio.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
We've had an email.
Did we?
Back in email corner from Adam, who said, I'm an LTR FTW. I like that, long-time reader, first-time writer, or Le Truftois. After last week's show, which featured many references...
It's a good name for your child.
Le Truftois.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, Le Truftois Hall. Awesome. That's settled. The wife will be delighted.
It's good because it's neither a girl or a boy, so that name will just work. You don't need
It's lovely and generic, yeah.
He said it was actually from 2 weeks ago, I think. He said, the show featured many references to friends of the show. I mean, he was left puzzled because he cannot for the life of me remember if Armin Mivers is officially a friend of the show or not. And as per Frank's rules, he's unable to Google or Exia said... Ecosia, sorry, I always say that wrong.
That's like Alan's Descartes.
Yeah.
I think, what was worse, Alan saying Descartes or you saying Escocia, or whatever you say?
Ecosia, that's
okay,
it.
Thank you.
Don't get me started with corrections.
That it's his belief that the number of references to Armin warrants being a friend of the show, and if he's not been given this recognition or honour, there could be a Twitter backlash against the show. Please enlighten me.
So should Armin Mivers, who is Alan, how would you describe him?
He's a German cannibal.
Yeah.
I'm going for it.
Oh no. That's got more grandiose, hasn't
Yes,
it?
it
Surely
has.
it needs a new. It should be
No.
fiend of the show.
Yes,
That's
he's
right.
not. He's not friend of the
Yeah.
show. I think Frank would be mortified.
We should call it Friend of the Show Sick, spelt
Yeah.
incorrectly.
But we do have in our collection of friends of the show, we have Mahatma Gandhi, Ross Noble and Peter
Yeah.
the Wild.
Yeah.
It was quite a strange night down the
Because
pub.
Friend of the show is usually reserved for people who've had some sort of, specific contact or reference with.
Yes.
So unless Armin Mivers
What,
is
like
the
Mahatma
reason that Gareth
Gandhi?
left.
No, Armin Mivers came up. We should furnish readers with the information if they
yes.
knew, because when people are dressing their baby, there was a few that when they were saying "put your arm in," they would say "Armin Mivers." And actually, we've had an email entitled "First World Problems and Song to Get Baby Changed." Hi, Frank, Alan M. I literally just had a first world problem that I wanted to share with you. It's the annoyance of washing up when the dishwasher is full and clean.
Oh, yeah.
But realising that the cafetiere hasn't been cleaned out, so where do you pour all of the bits? It's getting vigorous nodding in the room.
Yes, I hate the bits.
Also, when changing my baby Fred, I sing "Hands up, baby, hands up, give me your arm, gimme, gimme your arm, gimme, gimme" to the tune of Disco by Ottawa. That's a great call.
Oh, that's a good one. That's really good. Did we have an Idi Amin as well?
We did have an Idi Amin.
Yeah.
Amin. I get them to lean on me, and I sing "Lean on Me."
Do you?
But I've also noticed another one that I did the other night. My son was using mouthwash, the children's one, not the full.
Still
one.
quite odd. Anyway,
And
if I'm honest, I find that quite odd.
I started singing "Mouthwashing, we're mouthwashing" to the tune of Lou Reed's Nightclubbing, or at least I think so.
I think
it's to
that's a
that
lovely,
tune.
positive role model for a child,
Yeah,
Lou Reed.
I want his life to be really influenced by Lou Reed.
Yeah. Guys, that's all we've got time for, I'm afraid.
No,
It's been lovely
I'm not going.
having you, Per.
I am not
Just
going.
sit in protest.
I'm telling you, I'm not going.
Staying.
Coming up, we have Mark Crossley. But thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we'll be seeing you.
You're listening to the Frank Skinner podcast from Absolute Radio. Want your Frank fix a little sooner? Listen live every Saturday from 8 a.m. on Absolute Radio. Across the UK on digital radio, mobile apps, and in London and the South East on 105.8 FM.
Absolute Radio.